Yeah, that's what it is. Been there,
right.
done that. This is healing, y'all. This is what the shit looks like. This is what it feels like. This is healing.
All right, so let me explain.
Gotta introduce.
Yes, right now I am. Welcome everyone to Real Talk with Casey and JoJo. What's up, Casey?
I don't know. What's up, JoJo? What's up?
So what's up is that we just finished reading. How do I put it? My side of the story, right? For this episode.
Where she referred to me as the father of her children.
Yes. So
it's cool though. I'm good.
Let's go ahead and just let everybody know what's really going on. So we are, what's happening is I'm writing my second book. And as we have started in every episode this season of the signs from the zodiac and how they correspond to a relationship and the cycles that we go in a relationship, this is actually what I'm writing my second book on. It's called Summer Love. It should be coming out in the summer, hopefully by the summer solstice. And each chapter is essentially what we've been talking about in each episode. Now, the episodes are summaries. They're kind of like what we feel after we have discussed, after we have talked about, and after we have read what I have written. So each episode is about each chapter. And we just finished reading chapter 8, which is this episode, Deep Desires. Now, when he first opened it and he saw Deep Desires, he's like, oh, I got to put this away. This is how it's going to start. This is the name of the chapter.
Sounds like a romantic novel.
So, if you have been watching from the beginning in Aries, the Itch, the last one was balancing the scales, and that was in Libra. And that's when everything kind of flipped over from me taking the 1,000 cuts to now him having one big cut, right? Like that's how we're going to look at it, right? So this one big cut happens in between the fall part of the zodiac, I should say, between Libra and Sagittarius. And it's a big chunk of revenge, not really revenge, but just like what flipped the scales here. And so we just finished reading. What do you think? What do you feel? What's going on in your head?
I mean, like when she gave me all these warnings, like, oh my God, you're gonna feel and whatever. It's like, I've learned through this process that healing is a challenge, and healing will cause you'll want to stop, and you'll want to retreat, and you'll want to fold. And that's just not the way it works. So it's like, reading this stuff, it forces you, and revisiting all these emotions, it forces you to be in the now. It forces you to be multi-perspective, because if you allow your ego to grab onto only your perspective and paint a picture of, the world is going horrible around me and I'm a victim and blah, 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 then you're going to have a bad time reading the book.
And this is why,
reading,
do you see, this
problems.
Is why I wanted to sit here and read it with you. Because I mean, within every paragraph, you would stop me to say something. Let's show them a few, right?
Yeah, we can. So she recorded me reading it, which I was kind of against, but I don't make the decisions around here. So that's how it went down. And so we recorded us reading it and the conversations that kind of happened as I was reading it.
Yeah.
I had a lot more to say, but I held back in a couple spots. You're really doing that?
I mean, you never know what could be used.
Excellent. I mean, is that how you were?
What do you mean?
You were animalistic and passionate and had deep desires. That's how you were?
No, what do you mean? Where did I say that?
You didn't. You
so
just
then,
talk about the Scorpio, the element of deep desire, sex, and passion.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And then you get into I wanted nothing more than to experience the opposite.
Yeah.
You were numb, so you wanted to experience the opposite.
Yeah, but that
and then you talk about
like
the
sexually.
Opportunity to experience an animalistic human desire.
Yes, and I knew that would bother you, but that it was because of the way that I wrote it. Meaning the ego, the human side still wants to be like, okay, fuck it, let me just do this. But that's the human side, isn't it? Is it not?
I mean, it is, but that's not the way it sounds.
Because I'm an author. I told you the way I write.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what?
Because it just I mean, I don't know. I didn't think it was like that. And so if you're telling me it wasn't like that, then we're good. But if you're telling me it was like that, then we can move on and you're just doing this for effect. That's fine. Is that what you're saying? Be honest. I mean, let's go ahead.
No, it was. I was in a dark state. Wait, before you move on, let's break it down. I was in a dark state, right? I wanted to feel something, like some type of anything, right? Like love, feeling, whatever. So then I went towards sex, thinking that it would provide that or whatever. But that only provides something for the sexual side. Like, you look back at your times when you had sex, was it for the sex or was it for the soul, or what the fuck was it for? Exactly, it was a human fucking side of you, that animalistic,
but it wasn't
side.
Animalistic. Describe my behavior in any of those situations.
Okay, well then I could take animalistic, but I think animalistic describes that compared to where we are now. Yeah, because we're not in an animalistic state. That's the difference. That's the lowest part.
This is more about me needing to reset how all this went down in my mind, if that word is accurately describing the situation at hand. You're telling because me I didn't.
It's not like
we don't need to do the podcast. We don't need to do the podcast. It could just be about this. We can just do the
podcast. Savage, not savage. Like,
you want to do the introduction? Go ahead. Hello.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going. Get this shit over with. Innate magnetic force
between us.
He would manage to take my breath away. What does that mean?
What do you mean?
What is that? I don't know.
Like, here I am trying to like, I'm trying to move on. I'm trying to like just be cordial and be friends and whatnot. But then you always like took my breath away. You managed to take my breath away regardless of what would happen.
I hadn't finished. That's the name of this individual, Mr. Goodnight.
How the fuck else do you want me to describe it? Because in all the other times, the details that came up were the fact that he said goodnight every night, right? And that's what led to something more. So what the fuck else do you want me to call it? You want me to call it by his name?
I think it's interesting. I know. I don't know.
I'm not gonna put. I'm not doing his initial. I'm just gonna say Mr. Goodnight. Period.
Okay. I just think it's funny.
Well, there's good day and there's good night. So what do you want to do? Good morning. Good night.
Hold on. So
every paragraph.
So hold on. So I like details, and this just isn't enough detail for me. While sitting at a candlelit table and the entire world around us blur. Okay, I get that. We went from friends to me being his Bella and him being my forever love. Like, y'all had that conversation and then it was just like, yeah, that's us. Or
okay, so we were at Nicole's birthday and we were at the little fucking place that had like little tables with food, and then there was a bar. And
I'm fucking exhausted. We gotta
go. Listen, I know, listen. And so we were at a little
table. Like a heavyweight boxing fight.
Listen, we were at a table.
It's like Murph.
And there was a candlelight, whatever, and we were talking. And we had seen Twilight recently. So we had, we were talking about how that scenario looked like Twilight. Why? Because Nicole and whoever she was with were throwing ice at us. And we were like, fuck, we were like trying to have a conversation, but they kept throwing shit at us. So we were trying to just ignore everybody around us. So it became this thing where we decided that, okay, it's going to be a blur and it was just going to be us. And then that's when we became boyfriend and girlfriend. And then.
Oh, how cute. That's really special. I'm not being sarcastic. If I'm looking at this outside of myself, it's like, okay, cool. I can.
So then my forever love type thing and me being his Bella was just.
Yeah, you're like.
equating that as a metaphor to Twilight, because that's what I was comparing it to, because what I deeply desired was that type of love. Go on.
Magical hint of purple. I'll think about Lucky Charms. Oh. So, I mean, you thought I wouldn't give a shit about that?
I don't know.
You didn't care. You didn't think about it.
No.
You were Bella and you had met Edward. Of course. Why the fuck would you care about that? But that just seems like that's just not like you.
I wasn't me.
Right?
I mean, like.
No, but like you're very, I'm sorry, but you're very particular about pictures that you post. So the fact that you would post a picture.
Because I was excited. And I hadn't felt excited in a really long time.
Karmic twin flame. Yeah, you had me believe in that shit too. But it was frustrating. Because it's like, why? If I'm karmic, then bye. you
right,
know, like
and that's how
like,
I felt. Right, I know.
Like, why can't you peace out then?
Right.
You referred to me as the father of my children. Wow.
From that point of view
cold.
back then.
That's cold. That's cold-blooded, man. Like that's probably the worst thing I've read so far. The father of my children. Mixed emotions about the father of my
That's
children.
What came out, bro.
Wow, that's my
as
ranking.
An author.
That's my ranking.
Shut up.
I know that's my ranking at this moment. It just shows you how low I was on the totem pole. Father of my children. That's it? That's the end? Not too bad.
Because you can handle it like a champ.
The way you described it, I was expecting, I didn't know what to expect. Of course, I always expect the worst. Like I'm going to learn some new information or I'm going to find out some things I didn't know before and I'm going to have to process that shit. But luckily, there was no new information for the most part. There were some terms dropped that I would have not preferred, like father of my children. But I get it because that was your mindset. And that's kind of the way you're addressing the audience is in your mindset of
at that time.
This guy is just the father of he has lost all his rights, except he's the father of my children. That's the only right.
Hey, your name was there.
Thank you. Yes. And she named this other gentleman Mr. Goodnight, which I found terribly amusing. I don't know why. I do know why. But it was terribly amusing for me to read that. But no, I mean, I expected worse and it wasn't as bad as I thought. I mean, I feel relieved in the fact that all the things that I read, I remember. So in other words, you had told me about them in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not in the exact way it was written in terms of, but it was still the information all matched up. So it's like, as I think about that, you know, if you've ever had to deliver really shitty information to someone, you know, something that you know is going to hurt them, something that you know you did that's going to cause them to hurt them. You know, a lot of times we tend to want to sugarcoat shit because somehow sugarcoating it, we're limiting their pain. But this one just told me straight up, and she was brutally honest. But I can tell you, looking back on it, she didn't do me any favors by not doing that, right? Like you being honest and upfront with me made me process it. I saw, you know, the raw emotion for what it was, and it's like now when I look back on this, 7 years later.
Or
you know,
8 now,
7 years later, there's some deep reassurance with the things that I read matching up to what you shared with me, right? Like, you know, I mean, I'm sure some things were omitted because you can't tell every story of every moment of every time that was spent.
Was there anything in there that was new to you?
No, that's the thing. No, I mean, the dinner with the candlelit dinner, but that's a detail. That doesn't count.
Okay.
You know
what about the whole kiss that took me to like past lives and stuff?
No, you told me about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, there wasn't any new information. So, you know, looking back on it now, it's like that makes me trust you more, right? So because you know you always talk about if you cheat on somebody you lose trust and you can never gain it back, but that's a positive for me as I read through this, and that's probably the biggest thing. But I think the lesson is that had you sugarcoated it and had you now had to have read these things and shared new information, that's new information that I would have had to process and heal from.
And even then when you read it, you still like some words were like what? And I'm like, look, I'm an author. It's I have to eloquently put it some way that the reader
I get
can,
it.
you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of both. There's truth to it, but there's also
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, stop me. But it's amazing because, on this healing journey, right?
yeah.
Like you have to be able to rise above your ego, right? Like, and what I mean by that is that, like, as I'm reading this, I can feel like jealousy, I can feel anger, resentment, all the negative emotions that would naturally come about if you read about your other doing that, experiencing that. Those are
Right.
natural emotions, but that doesn't mean that, I have to succumb to them, right? That doesn't
Right.
mean that I have to allow them to then take over. So it's like this healing journey has allowed me to really rise above my ego and recognize it for what it is, and be able to communicate it with it in a way that allows it not to become aggravated and like
Especially because
come
it's
out.
from the past. So you're like, that was the past. And it's like differentiating between the fact that that's not now. So why would you hold on to a feeling that was associated to the past?
Right, but I think we do. I
We
think
do.
people
We do.
do. I
Yeah.
mean, there was years, man, where like I was still holding shit over your head. Years
Oh,
after all
yeah.
that stuff happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
So,
a process.
so like, let's talk about the time that just as a pinpoint here, the time where you guys first met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, how did that go down? What was it? So we were having an event. It was a Lexus party at the Lexus dealership, and I wanted him to be there because he was part of my business growth. He was part of being there, knowing these people, etc. But I was now boyfriend and girlfriend, if you want to call it
it's
that,
like a power move.
with Mr. Goodnight. And so that's what we're gonna call him. So so I'm like, this would be a good time to have them meet. And if I'm going to get over you and start something new, this would show me like where I'm at in the process of letting you go, etc. Were the kids there that night?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so they
yeah,
met
they're
him
there.
too that night. That
Um,
wasn't the first night they met. Yeah, they were little though.
so what was that like?
Yeah, what was that like? So
Well,
I told one to come early, the other one to come late. They both ended up coming at the same time, and that was really awkward. I was drinking wine and trying to lower my nerves because I was anxious as fuck. So then you guys meet and shake hands, and how was that?
I was gonna start with, I mean, putting yourself in that situation, it's there's a lot of emotions involved with it, but I've never really been the person to be angry at someone else for having sex with your whatever, unless they know you or they're friends with you. That's a different story, right? Like that's like bro code. But you can't blame the individual, right? Like if Mr. Goodnight is thinking he's walking into a situation with open arms, it's not his fault, right? Now I do blame the missus, because not her, but just in general. Like, as if you're a woman and you're in that situation, you probably should get your shit right before you go out and involve someone in a relationship. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But the point is that there's a lot of emotion, and I'm going through things. But at the end of the day, it's like I always told myself that this was my punishment, right? For all the fucking things that I did, this was my punishment. And maybe that's self-defeating. I don't know, but it got me through moments like this, right? Because it's basically like, tie your tie, wear your best suit, go in with your head held high, and
Yeah,
let the
because
chips
you were
fall where
just
they may.
standing there while him and I were together.
Together, yeah, with your mom. I remember that very clearly. Yep. That's awkward as fuck.
And yeah, and I felt bad. And he knew that. He knew that I felt bad. Like you guys both knew how
Yeah,
I
in a
felt
way,
about
like I
everything.
could see him being very proud that because you're standing up for him is what you're doing, right? Like that's
It
what you
was
did,
letting him know, like, look, I am getting
and I
this
am
is
serious,
I'm
and I'm presenting
serious.
this to the
And
world. Yeah,
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 because
I
it
get
was
it,
like the coming out of like, look, I'm with him, and everybody knew that. And
I
it's
get
like,
it.
look, I'm moving on. And it was also kind of like showing you I'm moving on, because remember, I was not wanting to go back to the same cycle. I was breaking it. So I was going to do everything possible that was not the norm of what I would normally do. You know, I would never bring two guys to a thing, and you know what I mean? And that was really weird, but whatever, that's what I did. And yeah, it was kind of, and you know, that theme kind of stuck through, was trying to show him that I was serious about this whole thing.
I could imagine. He's a Virgo. I'm a Virgo. I get it. I've been like, prove it. Actions speak louder than words.
And
Prove
man,
it.
I'm gonna get into that in the next episodes of how that went down, because I tried to prove it over and over and over until I learned that I had to prove it to myself. But that, you know, again, is later. So yeah, that was difficult for you, as far as reading that part.
The whole
And
situation was difficult.
yeah, the whole
You know that.
situation. I mean, like, what do you tell somebody who's dealing with an uncomfortable situation like that, you know?
You know what? Like, I'm sorry if I'm talking to you. I apologize in advance. I don't mean to be belligerent, but I'm gonna be belligerent because I'm going back into my mind that I'm kind of going through this, and you know what? Like, it didn't make sense. Like, karma's real, right?
Yeah,
Karma's real. Karma's karma, man. Like,
it's energy.
there was an intuitive aspect to this whole thing for me that, I very, very slippery slope. But I think that in most situations, in a lot of situations, we create our own problems, right? We create our own environment. We create the stories that we tell. Yes.
Yes.
So, for me, that's what it took for me to wake the fuck up. That's what it took. That's what it took for her to wake the fuck up. Whatever our stories were, whatever preconceived plans we had, contracts we had beforehand, we lived them out according to the way that we needed to ultimately grow. Yes, we had the choice to make different decisions. Yes, we had the choice to get better, but ultimately our karmic shit and our cycles and our habits and our like pain and our all of the things that we carried over growing up and all the things that we did each other had to be burnt at the stake in terms of like at the deepest level of pain. You felt it, I went through it, and then we had to make a decision. Do we want to continue on this path, or do we not? So back to me being able to get through it because I deserved it, is ultimately, I mean, that's the karma, man. Like, I was in a situation where, I could have prevented all this, right?
Right.
I was presented with the choice of preventing all this. And I remember driving to a football game with my dad. And this was like right around the time when we were living together, but we weren't together. When we were living in the same house, but
We were separated.
separated, but
You were trying to find an apartment to move out.
yes. And, my dad was like, yo, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, man. I mean, it's just like you. I'm like, I'm tired. It's just the same old shit, different day. And he's like, you're not scared she's going to meet someone? I said, oh, she'll be with someone within a month or two from now. She'll be with someone. So it's almost like I knew it, but I knew within the depth that I had to walk this path in order to get
To where,
here,
yeah,
to where we're going. And I
yeah.
think, man, I think a lot of times, like, we turn our backs on the opportunity to walk through the fire. You know what I mean? Like, we turn our backs on the opportunity to experience the pain. And sometimes there's just no better way than just to walk through the fire. I don't know.
In order to wake the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah, to wake the fuck up. I mean,
Because that's
you
basically
can't.
what happened to me, is that I didn't even explain that, but it was in my story that I said that, it was in this connection I had with him that I found out I was having a spiritual awakening. And we started seeing 111 and 1111s all the time. And I started Googling it, and I found the term. I found myself really going deep into the term of karmic relationship and twin flame relationship. And then at that point in time, I was thinking, okay, we definitely have a karmic relationship. All the things line up. And then I was like, well, is this guy my, twin flame? And what is this twin flame thing? And why is it that I'm feeling so many weird things? And I was associating these awakening feelings with this new, like, found love, this new, like, so this is called deep desires, because it was the deep desire that I wanted to be loved the way Edward loved Bella. Basically, a whole Twilight saga that I ended up manifesting of my own with like this love triangle where I couldn't decide between the two guys and blah, blah, blah. And I became the Bella, right? And it's not like I was just heavily into reading it, watching the movies, etc. And when I am heavily into something, I manifest it. So
and I hated it. Like I fucking hated the movies. I thought they were stupid as shit.
Yeah. So
I fell asleep. Like, we went to see one of them and I fell asleep.
Well, that was in the beginning, but then no,
I like
now
them
you
now,
like
though.
them.
I like
Yeah,
them
yeah.
now.
But back then it was like just very everyone kind of fit the mold, except for the fact that he fit the mold like Jacob because of the motorcycle, because he was a motorcycle guy. And that part didn't make sense to me at the time, but now it does. So the point is, I was having a spiritual awakening. I had just gone through the dark night of the soul myself, this whole pain, this whole like feeling numb and wanting to feel again, to all of a sudden feeling these emotions, feeling this newfound like love, and feeling all this past lives, feeling soul to soul connections, telepathy, all of this weirdness where I would breathe and the wind would blow. And I'm like, okay, am I speaking with the wind? And then I would like literally start speaking with the wind, and I felt like the wind was speaking back to me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is heaven on earth.
Bro, and I remember too, like feeling when you would because you would tell me this shit. And I'm like, well, damn, I'm just like chopped liver, man. I'm just like a broken piece of shit. Like I can't do anything. Like I don't feel any of this stuff. Like I'm just a broken version. But it was needed because I was broken. It's pretty fucked up.
And you know what? The truth hurts, but the truth will set you free, right?
Yeah, man. And that's what I was gonna say is like when somebody tells you the truth and it hurts, like you flashing like Batman sign in the sky, right? Like there's no better way or signal to help you step forward into fixing some shit than when that happens, right?
Yeah.
But
you had no choice, like you said, like
yeah, I mean, but that's the point, is that for me, and again, I'm not saying all people's problems are this way, that, like if you're going through some shit happens. I'm not saying it's that you self-created it. This isn't a universal law, but I think in this situation, this is exactly what it was. Like you self-created the love triangle. I self-created being put in this position of just absolute embarrassment and getting drugged through the fucking mud. But I did a lot of fucked up shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there wasn't, like I had to choose to step through that embarrassment in order for me to heal, in order for me to grow, in order for me to become the person that, quite frankly, I wanted to become and more, right? But I think we shy away from it, and it's unfortunate.
Well, and I think that when I was going through that whole awakening, it kind of made you go, okay, what's going on, right? Like, so as I'm
like you're not special. Like we all have this power,
right?
No offense.
No, I know, but you were just like, what's going on? Like it made you perk up, right? Because I'm like, what is a twin flame? I'm telling you all about it. So here I am telling him about a twin flame and how I was thinking that he's my twin flame, and now he's finding like classes, courses, somebody that was talking about the whole twin flame journey. And you sent me that. Didn't you pay for it too? And you sent it to me and was basically like, okay, well, if this is your twin flame, then whatever makes you happy, I'm going to help you do. And you tried to help me overcome these stages of my twin flame relationship with him.
Dude, and you know why I did that? Because it had gotten to the point where I'm like, yo, whatever I can do to help you make a decision, because being yes, stuck,
I was like this for so long,
stuck in this fucking situation, and like,
it's Mercury retrograde, so I don't know.
You know how many times I heard that? It's Mercury retrograde. I can't make
a decision right now.
But it was like, yo, check this out. Read
4 times a year.
So I mean, it was a chipmunk gift in the sense that, like, I wanted you to figure it out and to understand it. So, but it was also, can we move on? Like, if this is what's going to happen, can we move on? If it's not, can we move on? But that's slippery, man.
That was very slippery. I think, I'm going to get into what happened astrologically and the point of view of how everything shifted and everything on the next one, when we get into Sagittarius. But like speaking on the Scorpio aspects of passion, desire, depthness, like we have to be, a lot of times they get rejected because it's something that's like a secret that has to be kept deep inside, whatever that deep desire is. But sometimes like it's okay, and you can accept whatever it is that's in there because it's part of you. And a lot of times it just gets neglected, it gets suppressed. And this is why I say the truth will set you free, because if you don't attend to that desire, whatever that is, eventually you're gonna get back to it, and you're gonna have to still make a decision. Do I want to do this or do I not? And I was at a point where I was like, F it, I want to do this because I want to see what comes out of this, because I'm tired of doing what I was doing. So I'm going to do something different. And that deep desire is what opened up that entire spiritual awakening of me having, okay, something's going on. I need to understand myself even more, because I had already started the soul searching, but now I was like, wait, the soul is one thing, spirit is a whole nother thing, and I need to understand what this whole spirit thing is.
Yeah, and I think too, like like that doesn't sound right? So like what you're saying, if I'm hearing you, if I'm translating this into something, right, then what you're saying is that you're essentially, your sins drove you towards the darkness to basically bring you back into the light, right? So, but like that,
which a lot of times we avoid,
right.
So then
that's what I'm saying.
It never gets to like
you're taught to never sin, you're taught to never experience, you're taught to stay in your lane, stay in your box, be this, be that,
but then you don't experience life.
Well, yeah, because I think that is a universal law, right? That you cannot know the vastness of the light without the depthness of the dark. You just can't. Exactly. It's impossible, right? You can't stay in this gray area and understand the extremes. You have to experience both ends. I mean, that's a universal law, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, for
sure.
When you have a deep desire for something, you're either experiencing that something or you're experiencing the lack of that. You're experiencing one or the other, which then shoots another rocket, like Abraham Hicks says, of another rocket of desire when you're in a place of lack and you're basically in a place where, okay, I don't want this, but I do want that. Right. So every time we're in a place of, I don't want this, we have a new desire of, I want that. And it's like, what are we following? What we don't want or what we do want? Because eventually what we do want will lead us to where we should be.
And I think that a universal law in the sense that it doesn't have to be that way, but under our current upbringing, the conditioning, right? The way that we experience life, that conditioning creates the universal law of the necessity of the expansion, because we live in duality, right? Like everything's positive, negative, light, dark.
Look what I had right here, the universal laws. So we have the law of divine oneness, right? Divine oneness is the quantum entanglement. We are all connected. We are all one. The law of vibration. So how are you vibrating? Because wherever you're vibrating, that's what you're receiving back, right? That's the mirror. The law of action, the law of correspondence, the law of cause and effect, right? The law of compensation, the law of attraction, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy, the law of relativity, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, and the law of gender.
So it'll be the law of polarity.
So those are the 12 universal laws, for those that are wondering.
Just pull that right out. Like, didn't even have to look for it. Knew right where it was. It's cool.
It's ready for you. So basically, Scorpio, we are basically trying to say, hey, experiences happen for a reason. We're not saying do something that's wrong, go be sinful, go be unconsciously doing things that you shouldn't be doing. No, but give yourself grace when that does happen, because everybody is here to experience the light and the dark. And sometimes we suppress so much what we do want that eventually it's going to hit us in the head, and it's going to be like, look, here, do it.
So I want to ask you a question, because I think this is cool. So when you were deciding to do these quote unquote sins, right? Let's just call it that. Sins.
Okay.
Like, what do you think led you to do that? Was it intuition? Not to not to lead you down a path, but
when you say sins, like, what are you talking about? Like, you mean in the beginning when I was
just the whole,
going in
just
the rabbit
everything, just
holes?
everything. Yeah, man. Just the whole, like, just process. Like it describe.
Okay, so I was really hurt, and
Yeah.
so one of my friends I was talking to at the time.
We don't have to get into details. I just mean like in terms of
He's like, I don't want to hear it.
in terms of what led you towards, was it intuition, was it revenge? Like describe how it went from its primary emotion, not details, emotion, into its emotion. Because I think you ended up acting intuitively. That's what I remember you telling me.
Right, but what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't want to get into the details. I'm not trying to say the details, but in having this conversation with my friend, right, and having a place of being able to comfortably vent and comfortably share my emotions with him.
Okay, right. I know where you're going.
It became like a thing of, okay, it always came back to a comfort. Like, I wasn't going to go to a stranger. That's not comfortable, but my friend was comfortable. Right.
Right. So my point, that's my point, is that you weren't acting out in like darkness, right? It wasn't like you were.
No, it was I need to feel something, make me feel again. Am I worth it? Like, it not thirsty
like that, but
it was more like I had been drained and I had been felt.
You just want to be loved on.
Yes.
Peacefully.
Yes. And I felt like worthless. Like, I felt like I had little value because you had made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Like, you didn't want me. And so then I was like, well, am I even wanted? Like, you know what I mean? Like, does somebody else want me? Am I wantable?
Right.
Do I still have it in me? Right. Like, I hadn't really done anything. So I just basically was like, what is this like as an adult? Like, what is this like, period? And I had a curiosity because, it was just like a different culture and whatnot. And I hadn't been with somebody from
you just had to throw that shit in there, didn't you?
That was
that's details that are irrelevant.
That was a curiosity, is what I'm trying to say. I'm telling you that it was a curiosity.
I get it. I totally get it. But the point is you went from, so it was a little bit of fill my cup to then you meet this dude, Mr. Goodnight, and then you fall in love, and then your actions then became intuitive. Yes. And all along the while, you listened to your intuition throughout this entire process.
Right. Yes? And it was basically telling me, like,
in other words, you weren't irresponsible.
No. I was feeling, they always say, go with your emotions. And if it feels good, go with it. Right. And I was very much listening to Abraham Hicks back then, and like Bashar and all these people. And it was very much about listening to your vibration. If it felt good, go with it, go with the flow. And I was going with the flow. And and I felt good. I felt comfortable. I felt love. So why would I go away from this loving feeling I was feeling?
Right. And you would tell me that. And then that's my point, is that because I wanted you to be able to explain that, because I didn't want to have to do it because I'll fuck it all up. But you would tell me that. Right.
And I would tell him that I didn't want to hurt you at the same time either.
Right. And so for me, hearing that, like, how can I possibly be mad or be upset at someone who is telling me that, right? Like, if I'm thinking about this from a human standpoint, as a human, one human to another, she's going with your intuition. I believe in God. I believe in intuition. I know what it is. Now, I didn't fucking understand it, but there was a surrender to that, in the sense that I have to respect it, right? Because again, if it's intuition, it's from God. If it's from God, there's a reason. And that reason I don't necessarily have to understand, but apparently I have to yield to this, like, reason. And so that, again, that was part of the you deserve it too, but that was a big piece too.
And we all have free will here. And at the end of the day, it's like, whatever choice I wanted to make, it was my choice.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't together. And
no doubt.
It was a clean slate for me to go, you know what, whatever I want to do, I want to do. And you know what, at this moment, I want to feel love again. I want to feel loved like Edward loves Bella.
Yeah. And it's a lesson, man. There was a moment, I don't know if I ever told you this, but it was with a customer. Like, I was doing mortgages or whatever. And it was a guy, and it was like one of those 7:30 like callbacks, and I guess homeboy was on the couch having a Jack and Daniels or something because he just got into some shit, and he was giving me advice, and he was in a situation where he had divorced his wife, she had met someone else, he was still single, and I mean it really rung home. And he basically, his end all be all was, there's a point in which it's too late, don't let that point happen. And we were at a point in our relationship where this stuff hadn't happened, but I remember hanging up the phone and just going, I don't care anymore. I don't care. Like, I don't care. That's where I was.
That's where I was too.
And
I
you
don't
can't,
care.
yeah. And you can't
undo that.
You can't, when someone hurts you and they just say, fuck it, you can't then, put on your victim suit and go, man, like, why are you treating me this way? Like, you didn't care. She didn't care. I mean, you give up, and that's okay, but that doesn't mean it's over. It just
Right.
means that.
And a lot of people think it's over when that happens.
No, it means it's time to go within and do that inner work, because you got to fix yourself, period. But anyway.
But that's next episode. So
I can't wait to see how many faces I make, because I mean, it comes up, but you just gotta swish it away, right? You just gotta swish it away. But I know every time I make a face, I'm thinking some shit.
As far as what?
Throughout this hard, man. It's just hard having these conversations, for me. Because we're not talking about,
Yeah, I know. I know. That's why there was this whole episode. I was like tippy-toeing around. Like,
so I apologize for faces. It's hard.
No, it's fine. But
it's all good.
We're healing and it's therapeutic. And thank you guys so much for watching and being part of this journey with us, because there's layers to this. Like, not only do I warm him up, but then I have him read it, and then we do the podcast, and then we talk about it. There's so many layers to it. And, this is still from a past cycle. We moved on to a new cycle, but we are still healing from the last cycle.
There's
so
residual.
There's residual. So just so you know that in your healing journey, there's always going to be residual stuff that you need to heal from. Like, don't think that it's just over. Oh, I dealt with it and I'm good. No, always go back around and be like, am I good though? Like, does this still trigger me? And then look into it, because there's still always something.
And that's that softer side of ego sears that we talk about, right? Like, your ego, when you start to heal and you start to overcome something, your ego will tell you how awesome you are. And you good, you did it. No, you didn't. Like, you don't need to feel negative or positive. You're neutral.
Well, you just got to look at it from a higher perspective. Like, we've gone up to a higher perspective. Now we can go back and look at it without the ego getting in the way, because we're a little bit above that right now.
Right, but the ego's super sneaky.
But it still gets in there.
And it'll throw in that good old boy pat on the back shit where you think you're doing great, and then it'll backslap you 10 minutes later. So the point is, you gotta stay neutral,
and be aware, and just stay aware of your thoughts and your emotions. Speaking of, we are enrolling in the QE Academy, and we have some courses there happening right now that are all about self-mastery, about yourself, getting to know yourself, overcoming each blockage that has to do with your chakras. And then we are opening up a second self-mastery coming up March 21st. So get in on it now before that comes in. So information will be below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.